Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the first episode of my new channel, Throttle Cracker. My name's Dean. Glad to have you with me. And right off the get-go, this is my first channel. So if any of you recognize me from the other one, let's keep that between you and I. This channel is just for fun. And a quick shout out to my sponsors, who I will get into in more detail in later episodes or later videos, because as of right now nobody's watching. Hempworks CBD, check them out. We all have an endocannabinoid system, and you need cannabinoid in your system to be complete. It's responsible for mental and physical development in everybody. Check them out, Hempworks CBD, as well as the Genius Biofeedback Healing app. This is touchless, chemicalless, legitimate healing. Check them out in the description as well. 2-week free trial with the Patriot code. I'll have to change that code maybe. But yeah, do yourself a favor, check them both out. They're both do amazing things for everybody. All right. So, who are you, Cracker? All right, well, as I said, my name's Dean. I live in British Columbia, Canada, in the Okanagan Valley. We have an incredibly rich car culture here. We've got some racetracks. We've got some really great dealerships, some exotic dealerships. We have a lot of people with a lot of money here. So, of course, that with that comes some cool cars. And I know a lot of the people with some of the very rare stuff out here are more than willing to share it. So, I'm going to offer them an outlet to do that with. I myself have been a long-time gearhead since I was like 2. I fixed cars for the first 20 years of my life. Moved on to other things after that. I'm an enthusiast of all cars. I can appreciate most of them. So one of the things that I'd like to try and accomplish on this channel is I think a lot of drivers have a quest of sorts, either for the ultimate driving machine, like the ultimate car, or even just the ultimate ride in a car. The car itself might not necessarily be, overly capable or desirable or valuable even, but to the individual, these cars are like the holy grail. So yeah, let me know what it is that you guys would consider to be the ultimate drive, where you're heading, the exotics, the old stuff. Like, what is it? Back in the day, at one point, my personal preference and would have been the ultimate drive would have been pretty much would have been one type of old muscle car, or another, most likely a Mopar, Charger, Challenger, whatever, E-bodies, A-bodies. I love them all. Big Hemi 4-gear cars. There's nothing better than banging gears in a big V8 car. That's just all there is to it, in my opinion. There's nothing better in life. Don't do front-wheel drive. Sorry, just not interested. Does nothing for me. You won't be seeing much on Honda Civics and the like on this channel. We're going to be covering more substantial, trying to be a little more unusual than some of the other channels on what we're going to be covering. But as well as, doing some road reviews and road tests and watching people, covering people and their builds, etc., we're going to be covering my own build that I'm currently doing. I've got pictures of Mark II Supras on the page with me. That is my car, the burgundy one, not the orange Fast and Furious Mark IV there. Nice clone for sure. But the burgundy Mark II, that is mine. That is a 1985 Toyota Supra. Now, I'm in the process of putting a Ford 302 V8 with a T5 5-speed transmission in it. If any of you know these cars, you know that they definitely need more power, but to do so to the 2.8 liter inline 6 that these things came with, the horsepower per dollar invested ratio is just not acceptable for me. I don't have a pile of disposable income for cars. I'm not an exotic car owner or anything like that. So I wanted to find a more viable way of increasing power and having parts, having an engine with parts readily available anywhere. I want to be able to drive anywhere on this continent in this car, and if something should go wrong, I want to be able to buy parts for it, and that simply wasn't possible with the original 6-cylinder. Regardless of how much power you turbocharge it to make or whatever, it just really wasn't the smart way to go. Ford 302, easy squeezy, fits in there really well. In fact, this is like the fourth or fifth one of these things I've had. But the very first one I acquired because it had a blown up engine when I was fixing cars for a living. A customer didn't want to spend the money to fix this old Toyota, so I happily took it. And at the same time, there was a Ford 302 sitting on the floor in the shop with me, so I whipped out the tape measure, and yeah, I mean, you pretty much don't need a tape measure to see that there's more than enough room for one of these things in there. So we're going to be covering sort of a generic how to put a V8 or do an engine swap, period. Because basically the obstacles and hurdles that you run into are more or less the same regardless of the car or engine. This one we're keeping it simple, carbureted, manual transmissions, very well. There's no electrical harness wiring swap, which is another reason why I'm doing it. Like I said, I want this thing reliable and affordable and easy everywhere. So this is my current. Well, not current actually. This is a while ago. We've done a bunch to this so far, but cleaned it all up, removed everything that's unnecessary so far. Did all our measurements, and the obvious problem off the get-go with this particular swap, and after having spoken with some people that have done the swap, is the oil pan. The rear sump oil pan doesn't work, and sort of an off-the-shelf front sump oil pan might not be the best way to go, so I decided I was just going to fab up my own. We will cover that. If anybody wants, we can cover that in more detail in another video, but basically what I had to do was cut the rear sump off and swap it onto the front. The dimensions width-wise it's wider at the front of the motor, so I did have to add, it was like 1 5/8 inches width-wise everywhere. So I did a sort of a strategic cut and channel of the oil pan I wanted to keep the structural rigidity with all those corners in there from the factory. So we had to chop it up a little bit. Turned out awesome. Now the other thing with this V8, and because sound is so important to me, we weren't going to be running any type of an automatic. Oops. Where did it go? We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that. There's my new T5. Just, if I didn't mention it, we're running. I think I mentioned it, but we're running a manual transmission in this thing. I don't do anything automatic, if humanly possible. So, and because the power numbers aren't going to be staggering on this as a daily driver, we just went with a nice, affordable, readily available, easy to work on, easy to get parts for T5. It's not even a fancy T5. It's got some happy stuff inside, but it's the the 335 first gear, or 3.5 first gear, whatever. It's got the real steep digger first gear in it and a decent long fifth gear, so we're happy with that. Yeah, now because I'm real big into the sound of things. If anybody knows me, it's all about the sound. I'd put a V8 in this car just for the sound, even if it made the same amount of power. I swear to God, I want it to sound good, right? Nothing sounds better than a V8, and actually these little Ford 302s, as we all know, they make a really nice tune. But I needed to put a fuel cell to accommodate the dual exhaust in the back, because as you can see here, we have a huge spare tire well in the car, and then on the other side underneath is where the fuel tank was. It's all shot off to one side, so there's only room for one muffler under there. So we're going to do a fuel cell installation at some point in the vid. if anybody's interested. I've never installed one before, so I was curious to see what I was going to do with this, and I'm pretty happy so far. So we did a bunch of measuring, ordered up a fuel cell, and basically cut out as much floor as I would need. Now I did remove I removed one small like cross member that ran front to back sort of through the edge of the fuel cell. It barely had any real structure to it, but just in case, I did attach to the same points, reinforced it, added some extra bits here, left to right to hang the dual exhaust off of, and added even a little bit more structure. This isn't obviously finished. This fuel cell is going to be sitting in a 1-inch square tube cage that's going to be mounted to the subframe that I installed there. So we can cover that more in detail, figure out what I'm going to do. We're going to be wiring an electric fuel pump. We have to fabricate basically all of the pulleys and their mounts. Not the pulleys themselves, but all the mounting points. The alternator is going to be on the driver's side now. We're going to be using the Toyota power steering pump. It's going to be on the passenger side. I might do something fancy with the power steering pump, depending on. I was considering running like a DC motor and just powering the power steering pump like somewhere, but we'll see. It depends on how much grief I have getting a Ford pulley mounted onto the Toyota shaft. We'll see how much grief it is. I haven't really looked yet. So yeah, what else is? Yeah, so that'll be about it for this video, I think. If there's anything in particular you want me to cover, let me know. But we will, and this is just the intro. We'll go into more detail on the motor itself, on the installations, on anything on the modifications needed to the engine or the car or whatever in this instance. Okay, well, I guess I'll tell you a little bit more about exactly what I plan on running with the motor. So it's an '89 Ford 302. It is a roller motor. The big plan for the car is well, as of right now, the weak link in the car clearly is the differential. So the power levels need to be kept tame, and even then my power levels came up more than I wanted to be making. This thing it was very easy to make 350 horsepower with the 302, and it's a cam change away from quite a bit more. We're running aluminum heads, 202 intake, 160 aluminum heads with a 60 cc chamber. We're running a trick flow stage 1 cam, nice and mild. We've got an old Weiand single plane, really low rise intake manifold, which still is too tall. And we're running a new Demon, like the Street Demon carburetor from Holley now. It looks like the old Thermoquad, one of the best carburetors you can buy for a street-driven car easily. Some headers. We've got a Pertronix ready-to-run ignition in the thing. We're keeping everything nice and simple, very reliable, fully rollerized, comp everything, but not the fancy stuff, just the reliable, strong, durable, readily available parts. Tried and true stuff. And even then, the thing's still made. It should, on paper and on the computer, it makes a very easy 350 horsepower. So, with a beautiful flat torque curve, it's just like prairie flat. This thing is gonna scoot. But until then, until the rear def gets replaced with like a Corvette rear end or something like that, we're gonna just use the block the way I got it, other than the addition of new pistons. It was a standard bore block. Still had honing marks in the cylinders, and they all measured up. With tools I have, they measured up round and not tapered. So I gave it a quick hone through some hyper-eutectic pistons in with the 4 valve reliefs, little valve reliefs, 3 cc's. We should be just over 10-to-1 compression, and real happy. It should be real reliable, really strong. It should pull this thing along like it should scoot. I mean, we're going to be down into the single-digit power-to-weight ratio, so it should be fine. Oh, yeah. Well, how much does it weigh? Funnily enough, a 302 with aluminum heads and basically everything else aluminum on it, which is normal, is almost exactly the same weight as the 6-cylinder that I've pulled out of the car. And actually the motor will sit further towards the rear of the car. I've actually got about 75% of the motor sitting behind the strut towers, so it's going to handle real well. It's going to do everything really well. We're going to be installing an aluminum radiator, building a custom exhaust, because that's what I do. All kinds of shit. We're going to cover it all, and eventually, any questions, let me know. Hit the, I guess, subscribe, share the video, like it, comment. I do answer my comments. I love hearing from you guys. Like I said, this channel's just for fun. I can talk cars and bullshit and bench race all day long. I've had some fun. I've had some fun cars. I'm on, I think he said either number 39 or 40 cars. I've had tons of experience. Like, I know a lot of people. I've had a lot of fun. I've been around a lot of this side of the country. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like to see. Tell me if you want to meet up and show off your car. That would be probably the most valuable to me at this point. All right. Love you guys. Until the next edition, I am the Throttle Cracker.